Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Trainer Chats by J-Dog Obedience. My name is Jordan, and this next video is going to be talking about brain games, why they're important, and then how you can apply them to future training later on. So we're going to start by talking about why brain games are important. Now, if you have listened to any of my other previous videos, you've probably heard me touch on why I think that mental stimulation is so important, especially for any dog that was originally bred with a purpose. If you got a dog that comes from a working line, they will benefit from brain games. The reason why is because these dogs were bred to work all day, every single day. So if you think that taking them for a 30-minute walk or playing fetch with them for 40 minutes out in the yard is going to be enough for them to not start presenting other destructive behaviors in the house, you're probably wrong. Most destructive behaviors come from boredom more than anything else. So if you have a working dog and you give them a job, the likelihood of them doing those problem behaviors goes way, way down, because now not only are they being stimulated mentally, but also physically from the exercise that you are already giving them. So the other benefit to doing nose work, or not just nose work, but just brain games in general, is that it's going to force your dog to start using skills, senses, things like that they wouldn't normally be using on a daily basis. So it's also going to start teaching them how to control some of their responses to stimulus, helping them stay calm, and helping them stay focused even in an environment where they would normally be really excited and only wanting to play. So now what we're going to talk about is a couple different brain games that you can do with your dog to help start doing these sorts of things. So the very first one that I want to talk about is nose work exercises. Nose work exercises is really great for dogs who have really high prey drives. It's really great for dogs who just never really settle in the house. Maybe they're always going, always moving. The dogs that are always messing with you because they just need that stimulation. They can't figure it out. Nose work games are so good and they're so easy to do that you're silly if you don't add them in at some point or another. And what I mean by nose work is teaching your dog to go out and actually use their nose. A lot of times you'll see dogs like they'll play fetch or whatever, but the second that ball stops rolling, they lose it. They can't find it. And it's because they've never learned how to actually use their nose the way that a dog is supposed to use their nose. Tracking scents, however, is very tiresome for your dog because they have to stay focused on that scent and, actually find it. So by forcing them to go out and actually learn how to use their nose, you're teaching them something that you might not have even known that you had to teach your dog how to do. You're stimulating them. And to be honest, it's kind of fun. And it's funny to watch your dog try to work their way through it. The best part about nose work exercises is that they are extremely easy to get started. So all I'm going to do to start working my nose work exercises is I'm going to take my treat. I'm going to make sure that my dog sees it. I'm going to say, find it. And then I'm just going to throw that treat on the floor. The reason why I want my dog to see the treat before I give him the command and before I throw it is because if you say, find it, but your dog doesn't see that item, dogs instinctually are not just going to go out and start looking for something. So we're going to start programming that behavior right from the beginning. So we're going to make sure that he sees it. We're going to tell him, find it, and then we're going to throw it. The second that your dog goes out and finds that treat or whatever it is, I want you to get excited about it. Like, good boy, good find it. You want to make sure that your dog knows that him going out and finding that treat is exactly what you wanted. And that's how you're going to keep programming it. Find it, throw another treat. Find it, throw another treat. Now, how you're going to start progressing this is that if you can get to the point where you're saying, find it and throwing it, and the dog is just automatically going out and starting to look for it, that's when there's a good chance that they're starting to pair that cue, find it, with actually going out and finding it. So from there, what I'm going to do is just toss a treat out, not tell them that I threw it out there, and tell them to find it. I'm only going to do one at a time, and I'm going to make it kind of simple. That way I can reward them for going out and finding it. Now, once you can throw a treat out, tell your dog to find it, and they go out and find it, this is when you can start adding more treats in. You know, maybe you throw one treat on one side, the other, and now you can keep telling your dog to find it, and they'll keep scanning the room, right? So from there, you can start hiding treats. You can put them in boxes. You can put them in toys. You can do all sorts of stuff. And if you need ideas of other nose work exercises, I would highly recommend just Googling a few. There's all sorts of different stuff. You can roll treats up in a towel, make them unroll it. You can put it in different boxes and make them find which box it's in. You can even stack the boxes and make them find what box it's in. I mean, the opportunities are really endless with nose work. So once you teach them to actually go out and find something, that's going to be the hardest part. And then, you know, once they will actually go out and actively look for something that isn't moving, that's when you can start progressing it from there. If you're somebody who's really interested in hunting work or doing like blood scent work, like if you have a bloodhound or something like that, you can do nose work exercises. I highly recommend using the things that you're going to want them to go out and find later. So for example, if you have like a lab or a pointer and you want to start getting them birdie and you want to start getting them scented for birds, what I would recommend doing is taking like a piece of chicken. This is probably going to be better to do somewhere outside, like on the porch or in your garage or something like that. You're going to take a piece of chicken, and all you're going to do is you're going to drag it across the ground and then put it somewhere. And then you're going to put your puppy at the beginning of that scent and hope that he follows it. Now, obviously, with a very young puppy, you don't want to like drag this scent 20, 30 yards or 20 or 30 feet even, and then put that piece of chicken. You want to start out very short. So maybe you'll only drag that scent 6 or 7 inches, leave it there for them to find it. You know, then like a little further, leave it there to find it. Further, leave it there to find it. The key is that any time you put your puppy on a scent, you want them to be able to get to whatever it is that you're wanting them to find. That way, you know, they get on that scent and they follow it to completion. If you try to make that scent too long right off the bat and the puppy can't find that reward at the end, then they won't understand the point of getting on that scent in the first place, because there's nothing that they're not finding anything. There's nothing rewarding. So you want to make sure it's short enough that they can follow that scent, but still find that reward at the end. The exact same thing is going to like occur if you're trying to do like blood scent work. You can use the blood. Always make sure there's a reward at the end of it. So even if you're just trailing the blood, put a little piece of meat there, whatever kind of trail you're teaching your dog to track, you want them to be some sort of reward at the end. Otherwise, the odds of them continuing to track that scent, very, very slim. So those are just 2 quick ways that you can teach your dog to find it, and then kind of modify it for hunting work or blood scent work. So after you've taught your dog find it and you've gotten your dog to go out and pick up an item that is already stationary, this is a great roll-in to teaching like a formal retrieve if you want another good brain exercise. My dog Hershey, he could run all day, every day. So a formal retrieve is something that I taught him because not only is it fun for me, because I was able to get him to pick up all sorts of things, but it's also fun for him because now he still gets to retrieve and do something that he loves, but I can make it mentally stimulating for him. So instead of standing out there for 4 hours, maybe I only have to stand out there for 2, you know, whatever the case may be. But anyways, so the very first step that I'm going to teach them in a formal retrieve is I'm going to have them sitting next to me in that heel position where I want them. And if you have a dog that hasn't quite learned how to stay yet, I would highly recommend holding their collar, but you're just going to tell them to wait, and then you're going to throw a treat out there. You want your dog to want to go get the treat. So if they're not interested or they didn't see it, odds are this exercise isn't going to happen very well. The difference between teaching this first step of the retrieve and teaching a find it is I don't want my dog to have to go out and find it. Especially if you're somebody who's going to want to use your dog for hunting later on. you want your dog to learn how to mark where birds fell. So you want them to be focused on wherever you threw that treat right off the bat, because we want to be able to program them to go straight out and straight back. So it's a little bit different than the find it. The only thing that's remaining the same is we're teaching our dog to go out, pick up a stationary item, and come back. But we want it to be direct. We don't want him to have to spend a lot of time out there looking and searching for it. So again, we're going to start with our dog in the sitting position beside us, and we're going to tell him either stay, wait, whatever you want your dog's command to be. You're going to throw that treat out there. At that point, your dog might try to jump forward a little bit. That's okay. The second that they relax enough to the point that you're not holding them back, they're just sitting there quietly again. Hey, leave it. Bruce. Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, the second that he relaxes enough that you're not actually holding him back anymore, he's sitting there nicely, you're going to release him to go get the treat. Now, whenever I do that, I always place it with a command. I always say back, because I'm telling him that I want him to go out and come straight back to me. So, and I'll even encourage my dog to go out when I say that back. Maybe I might give them a little push, a little nudge, whatever, just so they know now it is absolutely okay for you to go out to that treat. So I'm going to tell them back. I'm going to send them out to get that treat. The second that that dog gets to that treat and picks it up, I'm going to, hey, and I'm going to get the dog to come back to me as absolutely fast as possible. As soon as the dog gets back to me, I'm going to have another treat already ready to go. I'm going to put it by his nose, and I'm going to circle him around, bring him right back to that heel position, have him sit, and reward him for that. So just in that very short period of time, I am teaching my dog to start in a sitting heeling position, to wait until that object is stopped. I'm sending him out, bringing him directly back, and coming right back to that heel position. So right from the very first step of your retrieve, you're working on a good heel, you're working on a stay, you're working on a sit, you're working on a out and back. There's so many items right there just working on that retrieve that you just added an entire new aspect to your game of fetch now. So from there, once you can get them to go out and back super repeatedly with a treat, you're going to start subbing in new items. Now, when you start adding new items to your dog's retrieve, you need to be careful about the items that you're using. Now, if you have a dog that likes to play fetch and you just want to use this retrieve as a way to stimulate them and make them work a little bit more, get a little bit more tired, it does not matter what items you use. It really doesn't. If you just want to use it as a way to get them more tired, that's great. Use their ball, use their toys, use whatever you want. It doesn't matter. If you are looking to have a dog that retrieves for service work or retrieves for hunting, stuff like that, you want to teach them about bite pressure, okay? Dogs, especially dogs that are like hunting and stuff like that, they have a tendency to go out and want to bite down on something. We don't necessarily want that if we have a dog that's working for service purposes or for hunting purposes, because if they go out and pick up a bird and they bite down, they crush that bird, put teeth marks all the way through it, all of a sudden that's not a bird that like can be used for human consumption anymore. So if you plan on using your dog for something more than just having fun and having exercise, the items that you choose in your retrieve next are very important. You do not want to use one of their toys, because we don't want our dogs to think that the only time they have to go out and pick something up is if it's one of their toys, if it's something playful to them. So something that I recommend to a lot of people is like a piece of PVC pipe or a piece of rolled up newspaper that has duct tape around it. The reason for this is that it's pretty hard. Your dog isn't going to want to bite down on it a lot because it's not super comfortable on their teeth. Additionally, if they're like clacking around, it's not going to stay in their mouth very easily. That being said, if you are teaching a dog actually this could go for any part of the retrieve. When you first start introducing the new item, there's two keys. One, you want to reward your dog heavily when they pick that item up the first time. 2, you want them to come directly back to you as fast as possible and try to time it so that they're putting it into your hands. If you don't teach your dog to hold an item the whole way back at the very beginning, it is very, very difficult to break in a positive manner. Teaching a dog to hold an item in their mouth for an extended period of time without chewing on it or without putting dents in it or without dropping it can be very, very difficult. So teach that to your dog right at the beginning when you're teaching them these formal retrieve exercises, or even when you're playing fetch with them. If you want your dog to bring it back to your hand every single time, never throw your dog's ball or do an exercise with them unless they put that item in your hand. Because every single time you let your dog be lazy and just let him throw it at your feet or drop it at your feet or something like that, that's another 3 to 5 times that you're going to have to do it right to break that one bad. So do it right every time or not at all if you want a good retrieve, okay? So, like I was saying, throw that item back, keep it kind of close, make it very, very rewarding to them. Remember, a PVC pipe, piece of newspaper, stuff like that, it's not super rewarding for a dog. It's not highly scented. They don't get any pleasure out of chewing on it. There really is no reason for them to pick it up except for to bring it back to you. So you have to be very, 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 very positive about it in that exchange. Once you get your dog to the point that he is going out, picking up that item, bringing it back to you, and then sitting nicely in a heel, and he does that consistently every single time, that's when you're going to want to start adding in even more elements to it, right? So, let's say you want him to do a double retrieve. Okay, you put him at your side, you throw one out there, tell him mark, throw another one out there, tell him mark. Then you're going to send him out to the first one. As soon as he gets to that first one, call him back really fast, and then send him out to the next one. Now, if you already have a strong find it, this is going to help you immensely because the dog is going to know that he is going out in search of a stationary item. If you have not already taught your dog a find it, this next step is going to be much harder. It's going to be much harder to teach them to go out and find additional decoys if you've never taught them to go out and look for a stationary item. Because like I mentioned before, generally speaking, when dogs are retrieving and stuff like that, they're going after or playing fetch and stuff, they're going after a moving item. So their prey drive is really high. They're engaged in that chase. Not all of them will naturally switch to using their other senses to try to find a stationary object. So that's another reason why I was saying teach your dogs a good find it first, then move into the retrieve. So the next one that you can use, and a really great thing for dogs and something that you can apply to thousands of different situations, is teaching your dog how to tug, but how to do it on command, So you see a lot of people where they'll be playing tug of war with their dog and they're tugging. And, their dog always wins. The dog always initiates the play. And you see owners getting frustrated. So the reason why you should put these sorts of things on cue with your dogs while they're playing with humans is because it can help, A, give your dog mental stimulation, and B, it can help reduce the possibility of dominance issues later on. If you have a dog that likes to play tug of war a lot, odds are they're a little bit on the dominant side in one way or another, or they're on the fearful side, and playing tug of war with you is something that they have found that they can win, which makes them feel powerful. That goes for dominant dogs and for scared dogs. So if you have a dominant dog, this can become an issue very quickly, especially if they're always the ones initiating it and they're always the ones that are choosing when it ends. You don't want your dog to be in control of playtime, ever. That's something that you should manage, and that's something that you should be in control of. So the same goes with tug. So when I teach a dog to tug, not only am I going to teach him how to take it on command, I'm going to teach him how to let go on command, and I'm going to teach him when playtime is over, especially if I'm dealing with a dog that is a little bit more dominant or territorial. I'm never going to let him win. Every single time you let a dog win, that's like a dominant thing over you. So if they're initiating play, that means that you're on their schedule. If they're ending play, that means that they won and they chose to walk away. So you have now given your dog all the power. That's a big thing. So, when in doubt, when you're playing tug, it's best to put it on cue, and it's best for you to be in control of when you start and end playtime, especially if you're playing with a dog who has any sort of dominance issues. Then with your tug and stuff like that, you can teach them how to do all sorts of stuff. You can teach them how to open doors. You can teach them how to the oven. You can teach them how to drag stuff across the floor for people who might need help. If somebody is disabled and they need their laundry basket, you can teach a dog how to drag their laundry basket over to them. If you have somebody who can't walk but needs to get their newspaper, you can teach the dog to go get the newspaper and bring it back. You can teach dogs to do all sorts of stuff just by teaching them those 3 very simple brain games: nose work exercises, retrieving, and tug and release on cue. So anyways, that is a very brief description of some different brain games, why you should teach them, how you get them started, and how you can apply them later. Like I said, I'm going to record some more videos actually showing you how I do them and showing you how I'm going to build those skills. I'll also upload some videos of dogs that I've already worked with and accomplished these things so that you can see kind of what the finished product and stuff like that can look like and get a better idea of what I'm talking about. So as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below. Otherwise, I hope you take the time to utilize some of my other training resources and keep an eye out for any future videos. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day and wish you the best of luck in all of your training endeavors. Thanks, guys. Bye.